Being homeless is tough. Without a job or a place to stay and no family to support you, you can quickly find yourself destitute with no way out. The adults who roam the streets of Windhoek at night will tell you similar stories. Some will tell you that they turned to prostitution to make ends meet. Others became drug addicts to try and cope with life on the street. Even some whom you encounter have obvious mental or physical disabilities. What makes matters worse is that there seems to be very little to no help for homeless adults in Windhoek, no matter how touching their stories are. Concerned citizens, mostly from churches, reach out to the homeless, and the Moedergemeente Inge Church in particular is the only formal institution that caters for the homeless adults. With us in studio is Dominee Thys van der Merwe from the Moedergemeente Inge Church to tell us about the plight of the homeless. Good evening, viewers, and welcome to One Exclusive. Being a homeless adult in Windhoek is tough. And if you do your research, you'll find out that there is actually only one place that offers help to these people. With us in studio is Dominee Thys van der Merwe from the Inge Moedergemeente. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.
Now, Thys, it looks like I'm sure there might be informal places that we don't know of that is offering help to the homeless adult in our urban spaces. But you are the only formal place that really gives these people a place to stay at night or some food or whatever else they need. Tell me a bit about your initiative.
Well, actually it started 25 years ago, and it started with a street child. My wife walked out of a restaurant with her children, and there was this little youngster with a thin, it was in the middle of winter, with a thin t-shirt drawn over his knees. And he looked up at her and he said, "Sê vir Dominee, ek is honger." And that, "Tell the pastor I'm hungry," started the ball rolling in her heart. That very Sunday she challenged the congregation, said, "I want to start with a soup kitchen at least on a Sunday at the church." And very soon she had 30 people who volunteered to help, and that's how it started. The upshot was that many other initiatives for children started in terms of feeding schemes and so on, that members just simply...
There are quite a number of them at
yes,
the moment.
Yes, then gradually the clientele, so to speak, changed. It became more and more adults coming, which was a challenge because a lot of people have a heart for children, but if they see an adult that is destitute, they sort of think, well, he was or she was looking for it. You know, they must have made some terrible mistake, or they are living a life of making mistakes. That's why they are destitute. No, we don't have compassion. By and large, we don't have compassion for that, because we say you're an adult, you must help yourself. And I think that, so we went through a little bit of a bump in the road there, because a lot of people said, I'm ready to feed children, but I'm not ready to feed adults who ought to look after themselves. But we muddled through, so to speak. And over time, it grew that we then started also feeding on a Wednesday. Then it grew that we did it a Wednesday and a Friday. Some other congregations started helping us, because we are in the center of town. It's an easy venue, and the people don't go other places, yes. You know, so we are the place where they come to. Yes. And we've had, there's a stream of people coming for help, and over this period of time, we realized that what we're doing is not enough. Feeding a person, yes, it's okay. So we started looking at the physical needs, other physical needs, you know. Very soon, actually, we started looking at clothing, and in winter, we always handed out blankets and so on. And then we realized that their biggest needs are security when they sleep. And how do you give a secure space for someone to sleep? Yes. And the second big thing was just to be clean.
So let's just look at the security thing. I mean, I'm lying there on the pavement. Anybody can walk
yes.
by at any stage and
yes.
take anything on my body.
That's actually what happens.
Yes.
There's
so
a lot of muggings going on.
Okay.
And people get robbed of their stuff. I had the story of a youngster who was, who after he graduated from high school at the Delta high school, doing very well,
Yes.
got a post in a bank, a local bank, and he became a cadet teller, and he started dispensing money and so on, and he was groomed by criminals. They spotted him and they said, okay, this is the soft target, we are going to use him to defraud the bank. So that's what they did. So for about 4 months, they groomed him by giving him a check, he cashed it for them, and so on. He got used to them. And then they came with a big check.
So
And it was a fraudulent check.
So many of these people living, many of these adults living on the street are victims of crime regularly.
Yes, well, this is a very specific example of that. And so when he cashed the check, it transpired it was a fraudulent check, and the upshot was he lost his job. So he had saved up money, so for 3 months he could keep himself going in his lodgings, and he started looking for other jobs, but with that on his sorry. And then after 3 months he got chucked out onto the street. And as he said to me, he landed in the street with 2 suitcases. The very first night he was robbed of the 2 suitcases. Then he had nothing.
Sure.
And so he had to go and find a place where people would accept him, because there are certain patches that certain groups dominate. So you can't just go and sleep somewhere. You have to fit in with that little community. And so on, and that he got taken up into a community that was at the Methodist Church across the road from us. And then he came to us one day and he said, there's a job opportunity for him. And because he speaks Afrikaans, English and German fluently. And we cleaned him up, decked him out with new clothes, and he went for the interview and he got the job. And that said to me, this is actually one of the things we need to focus on. But in order to do so, we need to reintegrating them. Yes, that's the first prize. Now, there's a lot of people you will never reintegrate. For instance, the people who grew up in the street as street children. It's so difficult because they have no skills at all. And I always speak about it's the street in the person, because
it's a systemic way of thinking.
The rule of the street is whatever works for me now is right.
Yes.
I need to survive. And if you live in survival mode, you lose all your niceties in terms of manners and just asking the question, what's the result going to be of what I'm doing now? And so they've become the product of the street. And to get that out of them means that you have to give them structure. You have to walk with them. You have to discipline them. So in the shelter that we are running, the rules are very strict. And it's enforced.
Tell me about those rules. You can't just walk in there and spend the night.
If you come and you are under the influence of anything, we say no. Go and sober up. Whether you've used drugs or sniffed glue or whatever it was that you did, please go and clean your act up. If you want to come to us, we want to walk with you. And we can't walk with an intoxicated person.
Definitely.
So in essence, what you do is you give him an incentive to kick the habit. Now, I know it sounds very harsh, but it's working. It's working. Because many of them take the bait, and then they come and they experience having a nice hot shower
and people who care
and a clean bed and getting decent food and so on.
But you also empower these men and women. You don't just give them a place to stay in. You don't just feed them. You've actually got initiatives to reintegrate them into society.
Yeah, that's the big goal. But the problem is with many of them is that you have to walk a very long time with them before they are ready to gain hope. You see, the
journey of healing.
The biggest problem with a person that has been in the street for a very long period of time is that he has no hope for tomorrow. Absolutely no hope for tomorrow. And you have to rekindle hope. You must rekindle the idea that I can do better. Life can be better for me, and I can have a life that is productive, because they actually lose that self-image. They usually have very low self-esteem, and you need to rebuild all of that. So the program in the shelter aims at trying to do that in general terms, And then we start identifying the guys that will be more easily reintegrated, and then we work with them. We try and help them getting skills and so on, and then we try to help them to. But we've also over time learned our lessons in terms of getting jobs for people, because if I get a job for you, I become responsible to the employer. And you mess up, and they come back to me, and they say, "What kind of person did you send us?" So we will help people to clean up themselves. We'll help them to get their CVs in order, and so on. We will ask in general, but they have to go and pursue it, because if they do, they take responsibility, and then if they have the job, and they've kept the job for a period of time, we will put them into lodgings where they are more private, where they do not have to come and stand in line every evening.
Fantastic, fantastic.
So it's a whole process.
You reward those initiatives.
Yes.
And Dominique, you did mention earlier when we were chatting, the fact that anyone can really end up on the street. It's not necessarily people with mental disorders or drug addicts or criminals.
Or who grew up in the street.
Or who grew up, there's a certain gentleman you mentioned that's been on the street for 20 years. Tell me about him.
Yes, well, of course I'm not going to mention names now, but it's an elderly gentleman now. He's into his 70s, and he's someone that has a very high university education.
But so he's a degree holder?
Yes, a master's degree.
Okay, wow.
So, and he landed up in the street for various reasons. And he just, it's that same thing that happens, that you just simply do not have the energy to help yourself.
Definitely.
You sort of make peace with being in the street. And you've actually lost any incentive to take on life.
And I can only imagine how difficult it must be if you end up there. I think if I have to think 3 days without showering, all my belongings are stolen, to climb out of that, how do you even start? How do you approach someone without them shunning you automatically? So I definitely see that. I think we need to take a quick ad break.
Okay.
Guys, when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the plight of the homeless in Windhoek. When you turn your sights to the internet, you will find numerous shelters for homeless children. There are also safe havens for female and child victims of abuse. However, there is only one formal shelter that exists for adult homeless men and women. With us in studio is Reintegration van der Merwe to talk about why we as a society tend to shun those who roam the streets. Guys, still with us in studio is Reintegration van der Merwe. Now, Tace, we've spoken about your initiative a little bit. How many people can you house at one stage?
At present, we have place for 30 people. Those are the guys that walk in from the street. Many of them, of course, are people that we know and who come every evening and so on. And there's a process of if you toe the line, if you follow the program and so on, then at least you know you will have a place tonight. You don't have to come and stand in line. We will keep your place for you. And then if you do a little bit better, longer term, you can leave your stuff locked away in the shelter during the day, because that's another big need that they have. Of course, the perk to be able to wash your clothes in a decent washing machine. And so it's, you sort of build up
So you
the
tier,
person.
yeah.
And of course, if you mess up, you lose your perk, and you lose the next one, and you lose the next one, so that you know it remains your responsibility. But that's a way of helping people to discipline themselves. So we have 30 places, but we fill them up. It's so.
So those are constantly full.
They are mostly constantly full. Maybe 2 or 3 beds a night that remains open. So we've actually now bought a container that's already sort of equipped to take 5 people. It has its own shower and toilet, and it's even got aircon. It's still standing in Walvis Bay because we don't have the full amount for it. But that's the way we do this kind of work. You know, you have to, you know, sort of.
So you're
just
of
jump.
living hand to
Yes,
mouth at the
the
moment.
whole process. The whole process. I've learned that it will come. It will come. You must just put out word, and and from places that you never expected it, you get help. People helped us to construct. For instance, we got money. One of the congregations in town gave us 500,000. And there's a group, a company in town that's auditors. They give us 5,000 a month, and they've been doing that for just on 10 years. So that is.
So there are those individuals and those groups in society that see the need you're doing. But if we step back and if we look at this completely holistically, these people are destitute, and society is shunning them. Let's talk about why that's happening and what we're going to do about it.
You see, this is what really troubles me, is the fact that we do not fully understand why we have this. I think we need to rethink society and our way of living together. I maintain that if a society abuses those who cannot look out for themselves, and with abuse, I actually mean that it starts at the low point of just not doing anything for them, just neglecting them, ignoring them, and then it escalates, because this kind of person gets abused in many other ways as well, which we don't have time to go into that. But so this society, because society doesn't step in and do something positive and give hope and so on, we end up with a backlash of abuse. So the abusive behavior that you find from people in the street is because they've lived a life.
They've been neglected and
of abuse and neglect. And for us to change that, we need to hear what Jesus says. Jesus says, "In as far as you haven't done this to the least of these brethren of mine, you haven't done it to me." And when he speaks about the least, he's actually talking about those people that we do not see. They are invisible. And if you think about yourself, there are people who are simply invisible. And then the others that you choose to ignore. And if we do that, we are not doing unto others as we would want them to do unto us.
So we are creating a cycle of neglecting those who need it. Us will come back and hurt us at the end of the day.
And it becomes a spiral.
Yes.
So when we see these people, we react with, well, it's a useless person.
Instead of putting yourself in those shoes.
Yes. The very first reaction is, it's a useless person. And the second thing is, this person is a criminal. In fact, the United Nations report on the situation of destitute people and street children wrote about Windhoek and said that the municipality of Windhoek criminalized destitution.
Yeah, some of these people, I mean, recently, a bunch of homeless people were arrested and dropped somewhere in Brakwater. So we're not responding to them. But let's talk about, I know the Ministry of Health, they do offer services for people with mental disorders.
Yes.
Do you have any type of a relationship with them?
Well, we refer people.
Okay.
We refer people, and we have contact with people who are either outpatients or inpatients. There are quite a number of outpatients that you will find on the street that we have a relationship with. But they usually have lodgings in our suburbs, but they are needy. And actually, what they really need is just someone to talk to them, to listen, and so on. And if you care to do that, it really enriches you.
Yeah, we're social creatures.
Yeah. And if you see someone reacting, it is so rewarding. The person's working in our...
So you're paid with smiles.
Of course, of course. And thank yous. But our other problem is, of course, that we think if we do something for someone, they need to say thank you. We do it to hear the thank you, and if the thank you is not there, we say it's an unworthy person.
Act. Yeah,
you know,
to get recognition.
Yeah, and I always say to people, you don't do this because you want to hear thank you, but because you are saying thank you. Thank you for my situation. Thank you for my blessings, and I'm sharing it with this person. And thank you for the opportunity to do so, and to see what happens in that person's life. But I think the important thing is that we should understand that charity doesn't do it. Charity is something that you do arm's length, and you get rid of the person. We've learned
just give some money and it's fine.
And it's fine.
Yeah, and it's none of my business anymore. I've done my bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas we have learned the lesson that it takes community. We have to become involved with a person in some way. And if there's community, then we can start influencing and help people.
And reach out to them, bring them closer.
Yes.
Now let's get to that. We actually have to close up. Let's get to that practical aspect. There are people who are watching the show who will definitely come forward and who will want to help.
Yes.
What do you guys need at this stage?
Well, of course, we always need financial support. It's our biggest challenge. Yeah, it's on the one hand to erect more facilities, and on the other hand, to just pay for the day-to-day.
So you want to house more of these people at the end of the day?
Yeah, well, we are positioned to be able to construct, because when we did the shelter, the overnight shelter part of it, we had a concrete roof done so that we can go up a second tier. So if we get sizable sums of money, then we can do that, because it's going to be expensive. We're talking about 750,000.
So if people from the construction industry want to come in and do
if that would be wonderful, if we can talk.
Fantastic.
Yes, and of course, if you want to contribute to the work, you can simply make a contribution to our Faith Promise Fund. It's a fund that works only on this kind of project. You market shelter, and that money will go directly towards the work that we do in the shelter. And it's a bump.
Do you have space for volunteers?
We have, but then we would like to vet the people. We would like to talk with them and walk with them before we start.
Definitely, put them. Make sure that they're prepared for what they're about to get into.
That's the big thing. That's the big thing. It's not.
Not easy work.
It's not an easy work.
Not easy work.
But it's rewarding. It's rewarding. Yes. I don't know whether I can give the banking details if people would like to do that.
I will make sure that there are contact details of yours at the end of the show.
Good.
Fantastic.
Good.
Dominites, thank you so very much for joining us.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Viewers, that is all from us this evening. We would love to hear your comments. Please SMS us at 555. SMSs cost $1 Namibian. That's all for tonight. Thank you and good night.